secretive organization in America. No, not the CIA, but the Federal Reserve of the United States. But this week, Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke announced that he will begin holding quarterly news conferences with the press. Does this mark the end of an era for the super secretive bank? Joining me now is economist and central banking expert Robert Murphy from the Mises Institute. Bob, it's a pleasure. Welcome back to Freedom Watch. What do you make of this? Do you think that it has anything to do with the victory of Fox Business and a couple of other media entities in federal court here in New York, forcing Bernanke and company to cough up the documents from TARP and other bank bailout programs in 2008?
Well, yeah, I think it does. I think it's the Fed is doing the bare minimum. It's just trickling out things, just trying to keep the dogs at bay, as it were, and just trying to get through while it can maintain this public image that, oh, no, we're being forthcoming, we're disclosing, and what more do you guys want? When, in fact, what they're trying to do is hide as much as possible that they can get away with.
Do you think they'll let you in any of these press conferences so that you can personally grill Ben Bernanke?
Well, I got my fake mustache ready, so maybe I can sneak in that way, maybe get a toupee.
All right.
So that's my plan.
How realistic should our hopes be that we will get closer to an audit or find out what they're really up to? Or will the former Princeton professor, whose use of the English language is very glib and sophisticated, just dance around questions and not give us serious answers?
Well, of course they're going to dance. I mean, it's gotten to the point where Jon Stewart on The Daily Show makes fun of Ben Bernanke. I mean, it's, you know, his first 60 Minutes interview, he said, oh, yeah, we're printing money. The second one, he said, no, we're not printing money. What are you talking about? And each time he can give some real technical definition as to what he meant by those remarks. But everybody knows that Bernanke says what he needs to just to get out of the room, to diffuse the question, to hide the fact that they're just printing money. That's their strategy, just print more money.
Bob, you recently wrote that the unrest in the Middle East is in large measure due to the Fed. Can you explain that for us?
Well, sure. I mean, a lot of what happened over there, what sparked these political disturbances, upheavals, was the fact that the food prices were going through the roof and energy prices. And over there, it's even more of a concern because of the lower standard of living than it is in the United States. So the Federal Reserve, by creating trillions of new dollars, caused speculators to go and they hedge themselves by bidding up commodity prices. So it's not you don't need to have a PhD in economics to understand. The Fed prints a bunch of money and then certain things go up in price. It's pretty obvious.
You and I are on the same page with respect to auditing the Fed. You and I are on the same page with respect to ending the Fed. But how would you make the argument that Paul Krugman and the others make? How could you possibly service a $14 trillion debt? How could you possibly pay all the federal government's bills without the Fed?
Well, I think that's an argument in our camp, Judge, that the fact that the Fed is there, it keeps the interest rate on treasuries artificially low, and so that gives an incentive, moral hazard, if you will, for the Congress to borrow and spend more, to live beyond their means even more than they already would have. So the fact that the Fed gives this illusion that we're able to run deficits for free is a strike against it. That's a reason we shouldn't have it. Let's have honest, sound money so people can know exactly what our government's taking from us.
I think that debate between you and Krugman is getting closer with every tick of the clock. Bob Murphy, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.